On behalf of the Tata Steel Kolkata Literary Meet, HarperCollins and Calcutta Cricket and Football Club, I would like to invite you all to a session on a very special year of Indian cricket, 1971. And this chronicles a year which brought India the dare and the courage to dream in many ways. It was a year I was born in, so I don't know what really happened then, but from those who, my parents and another generation, they remember this year with a great fondness. So it is very heartening to know that eminent sports journalist Gautam Bhattacharya and Boria Majumdar, the cricket historian, has chosen to showcase this session, this season, this whole season of cricket in 1971 to a whole new generation of readers. I'm very grateful to have with us, other than the authors, ladies first. So let me go to Mithali first. The most prolific run getter in cricket, Mithali. I'm delighted to have you because the stories of cricket actually affect women as much as men if they truly love the sport, and you are testimony to that. To Bharat Arun, who will bring a modern context and give us today's story in context to what happened 50 years ago. And Mr. Sunil Gavaskar, who was one of the architects of all that happened that year and has been one of the defining forces of cricket ever since. It is always a privilege to see Sunil Gavaskar and to remember how he has made a whole generation love this sport. So truly, sir, it is an honor to have you. Without much ado, I'll first ask Gautam Bhattacharya, what is your memory of this? You were around then. That's more than some of us can say. So do you have any faint memories of 1971?
Very faint memories, but I still remember that we all rejoiced the moment we got to know that India had won firstly in Port of Spain and subsequently at the Oval, and in between the heroics of Mr. Gavaskar, which was sensational to us. Trust me, we were used to an India which always showed the scoreboard as 2 for 0, 3 for 22, stuff like that, and from the scoreboard radically changes and you get to see someone scoring 220, 221, things like that, so it was completely alien to us. We were not used to the word winning, and that is why it was so memorable. It was a huge moral booster.
Okay. Now, Boria wasn't quite there, though he will speak to you as though he were there, and actually Mr. Gavaskar wasn't. That's Boria for you. So what made you choose this year? There have been peaks before 1971. There have been troughs thereafter. So what makes 1971, a kind of an important mountain to scale when we talk about the history of Indian cricket?
Glad you changed the word peak to mountain. Peak is a very scary word at this point in time. Having said that, I've always been influenced by 1971 because Mr. Gavaskar has been a hero. When you study cricket, when you study Indian cricket, I mean, all of these people, Mithali, Bharat in his avatar as coach, and of course, Mr. Gavaskar, they inspire. And when I'm trying to understand my country through the lens of sport, it effectively goes back to 1971. Yes, there was 1932 we started. There was the 40s and 50s with Merchant, Mankad and the whole story. But it was Mr. Gavaskar who was this symbol of hope, who was this aspiration that yes, India can. And that was my India, the change from royalty to common man, the change from losing to winning, the defining change from, Mr. Gavaskar is a middle class dream come true. And for me, that is why 1971 is the start of 83, is the start of everything that was good about Indian cricket. So it was natural. And Gautam Das partnership was also natural because both of us wanted to work together for a long time. And he was independently working on it. And so was I. And it just happened that the two of us bumped into each other. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm working on 71. And he said, so am I. I said, so why don't we combine? And that is why the two books. So may I, with your permission, show that here's the Bangla, here's the English. If Bharat has got it, Mithali has got it. Mithali unfortunately got the Bangla one first. So she said, why have you sent me the Bangla one? So these are the two books. And, you know, and that's how Gautam Da and I came together to work. We've been friends for 25 years, but this is the first intellectual project and couldn't be better. During lockdown last year, we would call Mr. Gavaskar and record these interviews, long interviews, and he would give us time very generously. Believe me, it allowed us to live through lockdown. And that's what 1971 is. And today, the story is more relevant because if these people could in 71, so can we, with little bit of discipline, tide over this crisis in our own lives.
Can I just add a line, Mala, if with your permission? I mean, the Bengali book is titled Gavaskar e Janmo, which means the birth of Gavaskar. It is not just the birth of Gavaskar, it was the birth of modern India. It was the birth of a dream. That is why it's called Gavaskar e Janmo.
Correct.
Fantastic. Now, before I leave this session to the two Sutradhars, Gautam and Boria, I'd again like to just say that, you know, the first ever test match I saw was in 1977 against Alvin Kalicharan's West Indies at the Eden Gardens. And the first day was what I saw, only the day one of the match, and Gavaskar scored a century. And I got married to Jeet, and about 7 years thereafter, we were discussing cricket. And he said, you know, the first day of cricket I saw was Eden Gardens, Alvin Kalicharan's cricket team, and Gavaskar scored a century. So 23 years down this marriage, we both think this is a very, very auspicious thing that has kept us together. So we thank you for many things, Mr. Gavaskar, but thank you for the memories and all that's special about you and what you bring to this game. Over to you, Boria, and over to you, Gautam. They'll take you all forward with this discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Mala. If I can sort of take it from here, again, a quick thank you to all our panelists, Gautam Da as, you know, obviously as co-author, Mr. Gavaskar, Mithali, and Bharat. Very, very personal friendships here. Sunny Bhai, if I can start with you, you know, obviously this is a celebration of you. Does it really dawn?
Hello?
I will start with you. The opening batsman.
Because I'm the opening batsman, exactly.
Correct. But does it dawn that this is what you have been able to achieve? You know, 774, 200s, 100s, 1300s against the West Indies. Do you really look back when at your oeuvre and the legacy and the millions, Mithali, Bharat, all of us that you have inspired? Do you look back?
No, as a matter of fact, first and foremost, hello to everybody. And nice to be here this afternoon. No, I actually don't look back at all for the simple reason what has happened has happened. What are you going to do excepting maybe try and learn? So when I was playing, yes, I was looking back in the sense that I was looking back at the previous innings, previous dismissals, previous situations where I got out, previous situations where I didn't score runs, and trying to learn from that. But otherwise, no. I mean, what are you going to achieve? What has happened otherwise is in the past. There's no point. You know, you can't really be rooted in the past, because then if you're rooted in the past, you can't stay in the present and you can't move forward into the future. So that has never been the case. I mean, apart from the 1983 World Cup final, if you put some video on of other matches of, say, my era, whatever videos were there, I don't even watch them, because, you know, I really am, you know, I've been there, so I know what had really happened. So no, I don't reflect on that period. Yes, I know it was fantastic. There are some really, you know, fond memories. Sure. I mean, I can't say that I don't have memories of that. There's some fabulous memories of that period, 1971 onwards, right till yesterday. But no, I don't sort of, you know, think back too much about that.
Okay, no. Before I go to Bharat and Mithali, Sunny, share some. Give me one of Bhagwat Chandrasekhar, for example. Every time I've spoken to you, you have said Bhagwat Chandrasekhar must be given his due in the book, and the others. Give us one memory that you remember.
Well, I think the one memory is that I shared a room with him. And, you know, when you share a room, I don't know how it is when, you know, women cricketers share a room. But, you know, boys being boys, you know, you chuck shirts away, you change in front of each other. But I never ever saw him without his shirt. Never. He would go into the bathroom to have his bath, and then with the shirt on, or the pajama on, and when he came out also, he would have his shirt on. And maybe because of that arm, maybe because of that arm, he was possibly not wanting others to see it. Happened when he was a child, about the arm, why it was. But that is one memory that has always been there. And then, of course, the other memory about Chandra is his fondness for the Hindi singer, late Mukesh. He was an absolute avid fan of Mukesh. And because Mukesh ji named his son Nitin, that is why Chandra also named his son Nitin. And if we ever sensed that Chandra was down, that he was maybe, sometimes you don't have a good over, you haven't bowled a good over, then, either say Dilip Sardesai when he was playing, or I would go and, say something to him about Mukesh, about what a terrific song this Mukesh number was and stuff like that. And you could see, how he would suddenly perk up from somebody who was sort of, looking a little bit down. He would just suddenly, yes, yes, you remember. And then he was like, yes, this is it, and he would know the circumstances in which that song was, composed and etc. So he would get animated, which was not often the case. So those are the things that I remember about.
Okay.
And such
Gautam,
a mild,
before I come to you, Bharat and Mithali, both same questions. Bharat, you were growing up in the 80s. What did Mr. Gavaskar and 1971 mean to you? And Mithali, Bharat, you go first, and Mithali, same. As a batter, what did Sunil Gavaskar stand for to you? Bharat, you go first.
I was 9 years old when in 71, and in those days we were really glued to the transistor. And the West Indies, we couldn't get the commentary properly during the West Indies series, but I very, very vividly remember the England series, especially the Oval Test. We were glued to the transistor. And I think, if I remember right, Vadekar was batting overnight, and when we switched on the it was a big effort to tune into the stations at that point of time. So BBC was one which you could hear the commentary, and as soon as we switched it on, Vadekar got out. I think he was run out.
Yes.
And so there was a partnership between Vishwanath and Sardesai. I remember Illingworth bowled 30 odd overs for about 40 runs. He was very, very miserly then. Illingworth and Underwood, I think they together they bowled about 45 or 50 overs. And that was a period when this partnership also built up. So it was really, really thrilling. Sometimes the commentary would go off and you would desperately try and tune into those BBC. And I think Sardesai got out. And then Engineer was known for his flamboyance those days. And he came and, scored a few quick boundaries, which really set the tone. And finally, I think when we were close to the target, Vishwanath got out. And I think Abid Ali, again, another cricketer, was known for his brilliance. That memory is still lingers on. And I think that was the beginning of Indians believing that we could win overseas. Gavaskar and Vishwanath were two really legendary figures. But then that was when Sunny had really started his career. He had got over 700 runs in the West Indies, and he was overnight, he had become a legendary figure. Those were really days which you could never forget. You could never forget the thrill of listening to the commentary then.
Okay, Mithali?
Well, I'm having a fangirl moment here. I'm sure sir knows about it, Sunil sir. Well, for me, he's the original little master, because I remember when I started playing as a 9-year-old, my dad used to have this poster of Sports Star, where Sir is wearing a floppy hat with the SG bat, the half sleeves whites. So I think for me, the inspiration of wearing a hat I started my cricket wearing a floppy hat is because of Sir. I
Wow.
haven't seen much of him, 90s kid, but I think that was the beginning of, like, getting inspiration from him. I remember my first coach telling me that, he used to stand tall against the West Indies, the mighty West Indies attack, and they were all 6 feet and above, and little master standing there with the hat, and he's playing, he's ducking and everything. So I'm sure you can learn. So for me, he's an epitome of grit, resilience, and I think it is when I'm a reader, I'm an avid reader. When we go back in time, books teach us a lot, many things. Um, there are two things that I've learned. You go back to history to see that you don't repeat those mistakes, and the second thing is that you take inspiration. So I think the stories that I'm going to read in this book will only inspire me. When you're on tough tours, you try to take inspiration from these stories. And as a batter, sir, your technique is unparalleled. I think I mean, even in today's time with the inception of T20, 100, everything, but those days playing on unprepared wickets with no proper gear, and unlike today's players who get so much of exposure before donning the India cap, I mean, you preparing for those tours, having that strong heart to go out there and face is commendable. I mean, the more I talk, I think I feel, it is too less to sort of speak about your achievements, sir. And you've always been an inspiration for me, for a lot of women cricketers who've played in the 90s and the early 2000. And of course, I grew up watching Sachin, but if I have to learn lessons from you, it is more to do with how to stand tall in adverse conditions, backing your players, standing for your team out there.
Okay. Gautam, your story? Favorite story from 71?
My favorite story for 71 or my favorite Gavaskar story?
Whichever. Your call. Your call.
Well, I would prefer Gavaskar's story.
Gavaskar's story. Chalo.
Okay. Firstly, he has been a boyhood idol, and it is I in fact was very fortunate enough to witness his last international 100 on a foreign soil. In fact, I partnered him. I don't know whether he remembers, but this was against South African media. He remained not out on 157 Boria. And this is the first instance in all my years of covering cricket where after the completion of the first innings, the man of the match was announced. It was such a remarkable knock against the South African media and attack, which comprised of Robin Jackman and several others who were good first-class cricketers. And it was actually an education to watch him from a distance of 18 yards. It was incredible. And I was just thinking, I still remember that there was a left-arm spinner who was bowling. And, I first delivery of the over, mysteriously, I drove him for a 4. And next 5 deliveries, I obviously defended because I was too scared to bat with Mr. Gavaskar. End of the over, he walks up to me and says, "What kind of cricket is going on here?" I said, "Why, sir?" He said that first delivery hit him on the front foot for 4. You get all the psychological advantage. And then you surrender it in the remaining 5 deliveries by playing on the back foot. And I, in all those years of covering cricket, no one ever told me this. And it was actually an education. And I actually thought he has been my boyhood idol. And to see him get his 100, possibly his last 100 on a foreign soil, was like the clock had indeed turned a full circle.
Sunny bhai, Garfield Sobers congratulating you. Give me that story also, please.
Yeah, well, before that, I must come to this story because this was when I think it was the first Indian tour of South Africa.
1992.
I was part of the 92, and I was part of the South African TV commentary team. And so Gautam and I, we had this partnership. And there's another dear, friend from Bengal, Devashish Datta, who was also present he was also present there, and he was covering the tour for Ajkal. And Gautam, that was Ananda Bazar Patrika, so rivals, rival newspapers. So as used to happen with batsmen at the end of each over coming and just having encouraging each other, that's how Gautam and I would come together at the end of each over and maybe just say something to each other, carry on or whatever, to keep going, something like that. And so he suddenly found a reason. Devashish Datta, who was also part of the team, he suddenly found a reason to run onto the ground with a glass of water. I'd not even asked for water, but he came running to the ground with a glass of water, and he said to me, "Sunny bhai, don't talk too much for him. He'll make it a front page story tomorrow. So don't talk too much with him." So the rivalry was there. I couldn't stop laughing because even at that stage, Devashish was only thinking, that because I was spending time with Gautam, that Gautam would get some exclusive or something like that. I remember that very much. Yeah.
But
As far as
Garfield Sobers was your childhood hero. He congratulates
yes.
you at the end of the game. Tell us about it.
Well, I mean, it was for me. I mean, I couldn't really when I made my debut, I couldn't believe that I was on the same field as Garfield Sobers, Rohan Kanai, and Clive Lloyd. Apart from, of course, my all-time hero ML Jaisima, and of course my captain Ajit Wadekar, people who had seen from the north stand and the north stand of the Brabant Stadium, and there I was actually on the ground at the Queen's Park Oval. So it was hard to believe that. And then we won the game, and so as we were coming back, I was in the middle, and we had to score, I think, 125 to win in the second innings of the test, and we won. And Abid and we were coming back, and Garfield, stretched his arm across and shook hands with Abid Ali, and then he tapped me and said, "Well batted, young man. But don't score too many against us again." So this was my debut game, and that's where he said, "I hope you don't score too many." And he laughed. The best part about Garfield Sobers was always that for him it was always a sport, and he wanted to just enjoy playing sport. Winning and losing, he knew was part of the game. He's quite simply the greatest. I mean, I've seen players over the years. Obviously, I can't talk about before my generation, but since then, without a question, he is the greatest cricketer ever.
Okay, Bharat, if I can come to you, 1971 and 2021, completion of a circle. 71, Sunny Bhai and the Wadekar team started it. 2021, the team that you guys coach in Australia, which Sunny Bhai commentated on, perhaps the only link, in fact, the only Indian commentator, coincidence, was commentating on that game. That completed it. Engineer in 71 out there to close it out. Rishabh Pant in Brisbane to close it out. Uncanny similarities. We actually have a chapter on that as well. So your thoughts, Bharat? 50 years, Australia, starting in England, closing out in Australia?
No, I think.
Yeah.
See, before I get to that, I think the thought that when Gavaskar was playing and every international fast bowler, when interviewed, they would tell you that the hardest batsman to dismiss was everybody would be unanimous and say it's Sunny Gavaskar. Made you extremely being an Indian and someone from India, winning this kind of laurels and this respect of all the top fast bowlers in the world. I think that was something phenomenal to achieve because mostly because you are not exposed to that kind of pace in your country, not those conditions in your country, but straight to go out and face these bowlers and to come out with the performance like what Sunny did. I thought that was mind blowing, and those were the moments that made you believe that yes, in India you have the ability and you can kind of win matches from any situation. I think 71 was the beginning. West Indies more so because England was more or less invincible at that point of time. They had beaten Australia in Australia. They had beaten West Indies. They had beaten New Zealand. I think there were about the recent stats tell you they were undefeated for about 16 test matches. And then India went on to, beat them in their, after conceding a lead of 70 odd runs, to beat England in England. I thought that was the greatest, one of the, highlights, where every Indian believed that we are good enough to beat, uh, teams in their own. Took it, and this Australian tour, I said, like you said, there were a lot of similarities between what happened in 71 and now. I think when history is being repeated, I think there seems to be a lot of things that are similar when you really look into all the stats. But I thought I can imagine what would have been their feeling. Me being a support staff, and then Sunny and all playing that sport, and as players winning, I think it's something which is unbelievable, and a feeling which is very, very hard to put it into words.
You're being modest. That's fine. You're being modest because this bowling unit owes hell lot to you, and every bowler I have spoken to, they attest to that. But Mithali, yesterday when you and I were chatting, you said, "Can I ask questions of Mr. Gavaskar?" So open to you. Go for it.
Well, sir, I'm sure way back, even women's cricket, we hardly used to get to tour abroad in a year. Sometimes there's just one tour in a year, and it was very similar to how you've played most of your career. So how do you sort of prepare yourself if you had a huge gap and there is a break of a momentum that you have built in the last series, and you're getting in after 8-9 months? So how do you absorb the pressure, and how do you what do you tell yourself when you're playing the first game? Because I feel, the pressure is immense when I'm playing a first game after a year or so.
Well, first and foremost, Mithali, I want to thank you for all the kind words earlier on. And I've been following, women's cricket for a long time. My sister Nutan also played a little bit, and so therefore I was following a little bit of cricket even during the time that I was playing. And I know that, women cricketers actually, at least at that stage, women cricketers, in my view, worked a lot harder than us men cricketers did. In terms of, because of the fact that they had, from Nutan's experience, I know that because of the fact that they thought that they had less opportunities, that they would only get X number of games and not as many games as the men would get. So the enthusiasm level was unbelievable. And, the practice levels that they had, the way they would practice, the way they would, get together as a team, try and think, because there have been the odd meetings in my parents' house as well. Obviously not with the whole team, but some of Nutan's friends, who were playing, they would come and they'd be discussing cricket. So I know that women's cricketers, the effort that they had put in there, and since then I've been following the game, and I'm so happy to see the progress that women's cricket has made over the years, and you have been instrumental to a huge extent in getting Indian women's cricket to the level that it is there today. When you have a gap, what I used to do was try and read at that time some of the cricketing books that were available of previous series, not necessarily involving India, but say an England Australia series, or an Australia West Indies series. So there was plenty to sort of try and talk about, keep your interest going. Obviously, as far as practice was concerned, you only played domestic cricket. You only played say local club cricket, and at the end of each day's play, try and again talk to your seniors, try and understand from them what you were doing, but kept the interest level going. That was the crucial thing, because if you lost interest, then to get the enthusiasm back was difficult. But luckily, we had a lot of local club cricket, which was of a very high standard in Mumbai.
Okay.
When I was growing up, even if you played for, we had A division, which were the top teams, B division, C division. Even if you played a team from the C division, in way back then, it was tough. It was never easy. So playing club cricket certainly kept the interest level up, and gave us the valuable practice that then when we came back to Ranji Trophy, or then we came back after say about 18 months to international cricket, it actually helped sustain the interest level. And then we were hungry. You're going to get to play a match after 18 months, play a test match after 18 months or 16 months. And therefore, you were hungry to do well. You wanted, because again, you knew that the next one would be maybe about 8 months away or maybe a year away. And therefore, you knew this is your only chance. And we were all getting older. We were not getting younger. So because of the awareness that, these are limited opportunities, try and grab them as much as you can. So that was the thinking as well.
Yeah. Gautamda, if I can come to you before I go back to Mithali and she can ask another one. The high point for me, the other thing about this book is your interviews with almost everyone who played. I've obviously been part of some, but you've interviewed, both of us have interviewed Ajit Wadekar many times, but you've spoken to everyone. Tell me about one interview that strikes a chord, and you've told me, in our chats about many, but give me one story from one of your interviews that will forever resonate with you. It can also be Mansoor Ali Khan Pataudi's interview, but give me one.
I would say Ajit Wadekar's interview. I still honestly believe that he was called the lucky captain. I honestly believe he was the unluckiest captain in Indian cricket, having won 3 series, hat-trick of wins. Despite that, just one failure in one series, and he was removed from the West Zone captaincy, and he sort of retired. And that stayed on with him for several years. And I still remember a function which was held in Detroit. Sunny Bhai was also there. This was which recorded the 45th anniversary of the 71 win. He stood up to speak Wadekar, and he said that, I had to face, just because I had taken over from Nawab Pataudi, I had to face humiliations. And then he jokingly said, his wife's name was Sharmila. My wife's name was Rekha. Now you tell me who's more popular, Rekha or Sharmila? But even after that function, I asked him that, Ajit Bhai, what happened that, you said this? And he said, it has still stayed on with me because the media kept on telling me, you are lucky, you are lucky. And people who favored Pataudi, they kept on writing against him. I truly believe that someday, somewhere, Ajit Wadekar's contributions will be given its due.
Mithali, if I can come to you, for me, 1971 was the starting point of 1983. I mean, 71 to 83. And then obviously, again, Mr. Gavaskar is the common chord, 71, 83. And he's ranked it in an interview with me that 83 world champion, and then 71 in his schema. For you next year, I mean, do you take inspiration from these moments against all adversity? 71, 83, you've done everything. You've achieved every single thing that there is to achieve. That one thing is early next year, and now we know the tournament will happen, COVID or no COVID. So how are you sort of the last checkpoint, Mount Everest for Mithali Raj? How are you looking at it?
Well, somebody did ask me about it, and like, it's been 21 years of international cricket, but this last year, because I know 2022 is my, the swan song, the World Cup. So the last year is equal to the 20 years of my international cricket, because I know for a fact, everybody, we are in a very difficult times. Secondly, it does take a lot out of me to keep working on my fitness. I know, like Sirs mentioned, I'm not getting any younger. I'm only getting older. So I know the importance of fitness, the importance of being in a very good emotional and mental setup, knowing that there would be very few tours before the World Cup. So as he mentioned, how important every tour is for my own preparation as a player, as a batter, and how I'm going to sort of get the team to regroup and build a team for the World Cup. So a lot definitely goes into it. But yeah, I'm very optimistic, and also looking at the girls, the way they've been working in whatever the facilities that they could have in these times, and trying to keep their focus and the enthusiasm level that, okay, there is a series coming, we need to prepare. So I think looking at that, I'm very optimistic that we will have a good preparation for the World Cup. and there are few areas that as a team that we are looking into. Of course, fast bowling is something, Arun sir, that we definitely have to look into, pick few players to prepare them for the World Cup, because it's in New Zealand. So yeah.
Okay. So, Sanibai, if I can come to you before I actually go to Arun on the point about workload. Sanibai, 774 to start, 96 to finish. Longevity, 17 years of continuous achievement. When I now look at, say, a Shubman Gill, a Prithvi Shaw, Mayank Agarwal, all of these guys start well, but then comes a trough, then comes a lean patch. We lose some of them. How did you deal with pressure, and how do you look at these youngsters, a Shubman Gill, a Prithvi Shaw, Mayank Agarwal? Of course, there's talent, but how do they, or even a Shikhar Dhawan who's now wanting to make a comeback, how do these guys, where is the second Gavaskar? How does one become a second Gavaskar? Can one? Your thoughts?
See, all these names that you mentioned are all tremendous players. They've got, as far as talent is concerned, no question about it. When you see the ease with which Shubman Gill was stroking Pat Cummins, and Pat Cummins was bowling quick on Australian surfaces, the way you've seen, say, Mayank also play in Pune a couple of years ago when he got that big 100 against the South Africans. Then the South African commentators at that stage in India were Sean Pollock and Graham Smith, and both of them said this looks like a Centurion pitch, the pitch in Pune, where the ball was going off quite nicely, and he got a big 100. So they're all, as far as technique, etc., is concerned, they're all very good. At the end of the day, I think you've got to, I've always believed that it's temperament that separates the men from the boys. And if talent and temperament are married, then, and it'll always turn out to be a good marriage. There'll never be a problem between talent and temperament if it's married. And all that they really need to do is to believe in themselves. There are times when you get the feeling that they are not very confident of themselves, that maybe they're having self-doubts. I think those self-doubts are natural in a young man's life. These are natural. These are periods where you start to think, well, do I really have it in me? I had a period after that 1971 tour. For 3 years, I didn't get 100. For 3 years, I mean, we played a couple of series in between. I did not get a century, and I think I barely got a couple of half centuries in that period. So for me also, the doubts were creeping up. In way back, if I remember, just before that trip started, I had started to sort of, I wasn't shaving, so I was, getting a little bit of a growth. And somebody asked me, what's this, what's happening? And in those days, if you grew a beard, this, which is a fashion statement today. In those days, if you grew a beard, the first thought that entered people's mind that ye to Majnu ban gaya. He's had a broken heart or something like that, and that is the reason he's not shaving. And so I had to say, no, there is no question of any broken heart. I'm just saying to myself that I will only shave once I get 100. And there were a couple of journalists, and Mumbai journalists, mind you, who actually wrote, oh, in that case, he'll be like W.G. Grace with a long beard, because they had also started to doubt the ability that I had. But if anything, I think that actually galvanized me. That particular comment actually, or to actually galvanize me into, so I was practicing hard, and then I got my 5th 100, which I think is my best test 100 at Old Trafford in 1974. And so I think it's a matter of, trying to get the doubts away as much as possible. Sit with people who are confident, sit with people who believe in your ability. And I think, honestly, this Indian team, this team is so blessed to have the support staff that they have. If they spend just 10, 15 minutes with Ravi Shastri every sort of, after a practice session, Ravi has got the ability to give so much confidence to the youngsters. It's unbelievable. I mean, if he believes in their talent, if he believes in their ability, if he believes in their talent, there is no better man than Ravi Shastri to give that encouragement to a youngster. He will scold you. He will tell you off, but at the same time, he will tell you the things that you can do to get better, and himself, will actually demonstrate to you. Same with say a Bharat. Bharat's been there, and you're right when you talk to some of these young seam fast bowlers who did splendidly in the second half of this Australia tour. They are all full of praise for Bharat Arun for the way he's guided them. So yes, this Indian team is really blessed to have the kind of support staff, and I think that is what these youngsters need to do. Spend as much time with Ravi Shastri, spend as much time as they can, say with a Bharat Arun, no better person, because you need people who believe in you. You need people who will tell you that yes, you can do it, and that is what I had. I had a support system at home, my parents who believed in me, my family who believed in me, and as after I got married, my wife and her family, and also somebody like a Vasu Paranjpe, somebody like a Vitthal Patil, somebody like a Milind Rege, my closest, dearest friend, somebody like Hemant Wangankar, another, like a younger brother. These people were all the time, giving me the belief that, look, yeah, sure, you got out, but you're an opening batsman. Opening batsmen have these, periods where the delivery is just too good, when the ball is swinging so much that there's not much you can do. So that's what's happened. But you're still good enough. And that is important for these youngsters.
Bharat, that Sunny Bhai said this. You have to now tell me. I mean, Mithali mentioned this or alluded to it about fast bowlers. To lose Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Shami, Umesh Yadav, everybody in that Australia tour, even Ravi Ashwin. What is the deal? How did you manage workload? So is it about workload management now that you have brought in, which keeps this whole crop that you can now bank on a crop? And how did you motivate a Siraj, a Shardul, a Washington, that crop in Australia as the bowling coach? Don't be modest. Give me an honest answer.
Oh, I think now what Sunny said just before this has been outstanding in terms of his experience, also how to get out of situations, because doubts do creep into everyone's mind, no matter how great a cricketer you are or how talented you are. Doubts that creep. It's very important to stay with people who are positive, who believe in you, and who can reinforce all the positives in a person for him to start believing, because a coin has two sides. One, there's a lot of negativity, but all the negative thoughts that come into you, if you can substitute that with a positive thought, then you're definite to grow. So getting these thoughts are very normal. These thoughts also crop up because though these thoughts help you to grow, no matter whether they're negative, whether they are positive, you always trying and substituting that through your own experience and with people who can add value to those thoughts and make you believe in that. So yes, workload management was these cricketers stayed with us throughout, and what Ravi Shastri at that point said, that he didn't want to send anyone back. Actually, some of them were supposed to go back after the one day and the T20 series. He said, no, we cannot bring back anyone. And since they have stayed with us, in case it is necessary, they would be the best suited people to play in the, as Providence would have it. Every match somebody was getting injured and these guys had to step in. But I thought one good thing that came out of the entire Australian series was the self-belief. Now, it is not that a youngster is looking to cement his place. Here, any youngster who comes in, if you look at the debutants that have come in the last year, there are 10 debutants who have played for India in the last year. And all of them have come out with match-winning performances. So that speaks volume about how these cricketers, they are extremely confident about their abilities, and having stayed, like as Sunny Bhai was mentioning about Ravi Shastri gives tremendous confidence. If he believes that someone can deliver, I think he makes him feel on top of the world. And I think that is very,
I think we've lost
very,
Bharat.
very necessary.
Yeah.
Because
Got it.
what you are is what you think. What you are is what you think, and how you think about yourself is going to define every moment. You may be extremely talented, but if your thought process is not right, I don't think you'll be in the best, chance. There's a chance for you to perform. But if your thought process is absolutely, you're very clear cut, and you're confident about what you can achieve, no matter how talented or how less talented you are, you can go out there and make a difference to the team's performance. And I think all these players staying with the team helped a great deal. They knew their roles. They were part of every team meeting. They were part of everything that happened on the tour. So they knew exactly what was expected of them. And their total belief that they can bring something to the table was the main point in.
Okay. Mithali, you ask the last question of Sunny Bhai before I give Gautam the one more, or rather, let me give Gautam the one more and you ask the last one, and then there are a million questions to take. I'll select 5. Gautam da, why should readers read this? Simply for me, at these troubled times, this is a book of hope. If a Sunil Gavaskar can, an Ajit Wadekar can, in a such a dangerous, difficult, adverse, whatever circumstance, I can wear a mask. I can sanitize. I can maintain basic protocol. At these times, this book, what Mr. Gavaskar stands for me, is a symbol of hope. What makes you feel this is a work that you and I have done, which gives you satisfaction?
Just in one sentence, this is a story of the underdogs believing in themselves and proving everyone else wrong. And this is a story where, where just completely people who came from nowhere, people who were considered a club side, once they arrived in West Indies, they showed the world that if you believe in yourself, if you are chasing a dream, you can actually attain that dream. That's the story of that.
Can I add to what,
go for it.
I think you can draw a lot of inspiration from understanding the history of anything. You draw a lot of inspiration, and that was the beginning. 1971 to me, I think any Indian cricketer who understands where was India placed there and how they performed against all odds, any cricketer can draw a lot of inspiration from that. And that book would be a book of inspiration.
Absolutely. Mithali, your final question before I go to audience questions.
Sunil sir, I just want to ask you, women's team in the last 2 World Cups, one day and T20, have reached the finals, but we couldn't cross the final hurdle. So if you're with the Indian team, what would you say, or what would be your take that, where we can probably tomorrow, if you're playing the finals, what should the team do, or what should the captain be able to express to the team that we cross that final hurdle?
I was there for the finals at Lord's. I was a spectator there, and that was the first time I saw so many English people down there for an England v India game. And we were probably, my wife and I, we were probably amongst the few who were there for the finals. And my takeaway from that finals was that the Indian team, you were on the verge of a victory. The way you all were chasing that total, it looked as if you were going to win. But suddenly you had that lower order collapse. And I think that was where I do believe that, from a distance, of course, it's a little bit difficult. I do believe that the lower order got a little bit intimidated by the attitude of the English girls. I mean, the English girls were at y'all, at the lower order, at y'all were, glaring at you. And instead of glaring back, or at least staring back, y'all were putting your head down and, showing just that little bit of your body language is such an important aspect. And I think that is where y'all faltered at in the finals at Lord's. The one at the MCG, again, I just thought that, the Australians just came at you so strong. They really came at you that they just swept you, in the sense that you all didn't know what to do. And in that short format of the game, it's very difficult to sort of come back. And again, I think it's a situation where y'all must. I mean, one of the reasons why I'm such a big admirer of, Virat Kohli's attitude on the field is he just stares at you. He doesn't look down. And with that example, the rest of the Indian team doesn't look down. They will keep looking at the opposition. It's so important. I mean, I'll take you to another sport as well. The Olympic badminton finals between Carolina Marin and Sindhu for the gold medal. And I was in the West Indies and I was watching it live. I was screaming because I was in my hotel room and I was screaming. I was saying, Sindhu, say something back to her. Sindhu, say something back to her, because Carolina Marin, before she sort of, when she was, preparing to serve, she was maybe encouraging herself, but she was talking, looking, sternly at in Sindhu's face and saying things. She was obviously saying things in, Spanish, whatever it is. She was saying, whatever it is, and every time, that was happening, you could see Sindhu doing, you know, wait, and looking down instead of, and I was saying, I was saying, Sindhu, just look in her face. Don't look down. Just look in her face, and you say something back. You say what you want to. You say in Hindi, you say in Telugu, whatever it is. But you say something back as well to encourage yourself. But you show that woman at the other end of the net that you are in the competition. You're not backing away. And I think that is what that 1971 team did. The 1971 team, we had an Eknath Solkar, who, when Gary Sobers, when there was a change, a ball to be done, Eknath Solkar, coming from humble beginnings, he was asked to go and make sure that the quality of the ball was the same wear and tear, and not a new ball or a harder ball given to the West Indies. And he asked for the ball to be seen after the umpires had changed it. And Gary Sobers turned on and said to him, why do you need to see it? You're going to play and miss anyway. I mean, that was Eknath's method. Eknath was, but he had the guts and the temperament to stick around, even if he was playing and missing. Yeah. And he turned on and said to Gary Sobers, the greatest, you play your game, I play my game. This is what I think we need to have. I'm not saying you should abuse anybody. No, I don't believe in abuse. But I don't think you should back down. And I don't think you should look down. And I think that is what the Indian team did, definitely at Lord's, the lower order. And then I think from what I saw, the Australians just swamped you all, and therefore you all were unable to sort of, pull back. So I think what you'll need to do is just, believe in yourself and just look straight into the opposition's eye.
Incredible.
Yeah, wonderful.
All I will say is incredible. Incredible. By the way, Sunny Bhai, Gopi actually took Sindhu after this to the middle of the academy when no one was there and encouraged her to shout, because that is something that he inculcated in her so that she could do that in the World Championship later on, which she won and became world champion. So that's something that I just wanted to tell you this. So Gopi wanted to do that and did that. By the way, just to go to the questions, I'll take 5. I'll finish off at 106 because we started 1206. Mr. Gavaskar had told me start 1206. Ask him why. But the first one
you can
from
finish
Shohini,
at 107.
Okay, 107.
108 you can finish.
108, okay, done.
Because it's a total of 9.
Total of 9. Chalo. Shohini Guptu is the question, and I'll go to all my guests, the questions for everyone. Shohini Guptu to Mr. Gavaskar. What did Viv Richards say to you, sir, when you came in at 0 for 2? We want to hear it because you are a great mimic.
Well, it's been, I've done it so many times. What happened was I was batting number 4 in that test match. And in the first over itself, Anshuman Gaikwad got out to the 4th ball of the Malcolm Marshall over. Then off the 5th ball, Dilip Vengsarkar got out, who was batting at 3 then. And then I went in at number 4. And Viv, as he walked past me, said, well, doesn't matter what number you come into bat, the score is still 0. So that's what he said to me.
But will you do that accent anyway?
No.
Okay.
I've done it too.
Okay. So this one for you, Mithali. Ritvika asks that the women's team has played 36 test matches only, 2 in the last decade. We have again finally playing 1. Should test cricket be the focus back for our women as well?
I think yes, because every player would want to play the longest format, as Sir himself has said. that, it tests you in every level, so temperament, your technique, everything. And even if today's generation players would want to play the red ball, I think it challenges you playing in England, playing in Australia, different conditions. And that's what, actually turns out to make a good player, a great player. And we also take a lot of inspiration from the last test India played in Australia. I think it is a story of inspiration for all our girls when we get to play England in June after a good seven years of gap. The last time we played was in 2014. So yeah, we are looking forward for that test match.
Okay, Bharat, this is for you. People are asking, people like Natarajan coming into the game, doing so well, breaking down. We have seen this far too often with the Indian team. What is the solution to keep your fast bowlers fresh? What is the workload management plan for our faster bowlers? We are playing World Test Championship, then again the T20 World Cup, England series, plenty of cricket coming up.
See, I think we've always had great fast bowlers, very, very good fast bowlers in our country. But then if you look at how they start off and where they finish, they start off by bowling 140, but they finish their careers bowling 130, 135 odd. So we did a lot of study and also study of our fast bowlers, what they had done abroad. And we felt that workload management is the key to have your fast bowlers bowling, being fresh, and for all important occasions, they being their best. And so now it is extremely important. People like Natarajan is injured. So we need to have a pool of fast bowlers, which we have right now. And also monitoring their, what is very important is physical fitness and skill. They both are, they go hand in hand, 50-50. If you overdo one, then you're likely, if you overdo the skill, then you're likely to be injured. If you overdo the fitness and do less of the skill, even that is not a great idea. So we got to make sure that we have the right proportion, the right mix of physical fitness and the skill to keep going, and to understand each bowler's needs are also different. We have certain norms which we go by, but also look at the bowler's ability, his physical fitness, and the speed. For example, for a Bumrah, he places a lot more strain on his body than the other bowlers, like a Mohammad Shami would. So understanding each bowlers individually also very important to keep them, like I always give the analogy of a fast bowler being like a racehorse. So they need to be in peak physical conditioning all the time to get the best out of them.
Sunny bhai, another one for you. It says, question for Gavaskar sir. We all know how brave and courageous you were, but do you ever take special notice of any particular bowler? Who was it?
Well, you tried to sort of understand what were the strengths of the opposition you were going to face up to the next day, and clearly try and get some sort of an insider's kind of view. So you talk to those who had played against them before, or at least see the videos when the videos came in towards the latter half of my career. So try and see what was special about that particular bowler. Did he have a deceptive in swinger? Was there something that he did? And these are things that you can pick from the non-strikers end. So also I would try and see little signals from the non-strikers end. So definitely, yes, I think you try and look for that little thing that as an opening batsman gave you just that little nanosecond to get into position early.
Okay, Gautam, you take this.
Since we have extra 2 minutes, can I ask Sunny bhai one question with your permission?
Of course, go for it. Your platform.
Sunny bhai, last 5-day match that you played, you scored 188. The last test match you played, you scored 97. The last one-day match you played, the match before that, you got 100. In 1987, why did you retire?
Why did I retire? Oh, I mean, it's very simple, actually. About a year earlier, I was actually thinking of giving it up because I was getting into situations where on the field, during a test match, if I was on the field fielding, and you looked at the time and you would say to yourself, oh God, another, 12 minutes to go for tea. Or, when it was coming towards the end of the day's play and you were on the field and you would do the same. Oh, another 14 minutes to go before the end of the day's play. And in limited overs cricket also, it was something similar. Oh, I was thinking, oh, another 6 overs of fielding. Or, so it got to a stage where I'm saying to myself, look, I'm not enjoying being on the field. If earlier on, you never thought in terms of time, you never thought in terms of number of overs, you just were so involved that, time and the overs or whatever, it didn't matter. You just enjoyed being on the field. So that was a clear sign to me at that stage that I wasn't quite enjoying being on the field. So it's better to go before, see, it was still a sport. It is still a sport. It's just that we are blessed to be able to represent our country. But at the end of the day, it is still a sport. And if you're not enjoying playing the sport, then, why play it? That was the thing.
Okay. Gautam, you take this one, and then I'll have 2 more before 1:08. I'll close it. What, according to you, was the main success factor unique for the 71 victories? Was it the charismatic captaincy of a new captain, or inclusion of new fearless players like Sunil Gavaskar, who didn't carry any baggage, or the role of close-in catching cordon in India's success? You take this, Gautam.
I would say a combination of both, and a very astute captain, a very practical captain who actually believed in mathematics, less in romance, and also the arrival of someone like a supernatural talent like Mr. Gavaskar, combined with the experience of a Jaishima or a Sardesai. So this combination of these 2 factors.
Okay, Sunny bhai, 103. So when we were speaking about 71 and the day we launched the cover, I actually had asked you this question. 50 years of your international career, we were celebrating you, and you said to me, 2 things I want to put to rest. That was a one-on-one interaction. Here, hundreds are watching. The 2 things you had told me at that point in time to put to rest: Australia walking out with Chetan Chauhan and dropping Kapil Dev. Will you please put the 2 things to rest?
Well, I think it is, as far as the first one is concerned, it's very simple in the sense that there's a misconception created that it was the LBW decision that prompted me to try and take my partner Chetan Chauhan off the field. Well, that wasn't the case, because I had been given out LBW when I had inside edged the ball earlier. Before that, I've been given out LBW inside edged even after that, but I didn't try and take my team off. What had happened was, if you actually see the video, is that after the decision, and when Dennis Lilly came and pointed towards the pads, and I was trying to tell him yes, but I nicked it first. I realized that I had no option but to go back to the dressing room, and that's what I was doing. And I've actually walked about 10 paces towards the dressing room when I was abused. When I was abused by the Australian players, a couple of the Australian players, very bad language, which is what made me snap. Which is what made me snap and made me turn back and ask Chetan to, let's walk out. We don't want to play against, these people. So it was the abuse that was the reason why I turned back. Without the abuse, I think I would have gone back into the change room. And as most batsmen tend to do, even if you've got a double 100, you tend to sort of, get very upset that you're out, and, sort of that's the way I would have vented my anger in the change room. So it was the abuse and not the LBW decision that did it.
And Kapil Dev?
Well, again, over here, immediately after that omission, there was quite a bit of rumor spread that it was because of me that he wasn't selected, that he was dropped. I want to say one thing, that as part of the Indian captain, then I'm not too sure about now, the Indian captain then was co-opted to the selection committee. And when you're co-opted to the selection committee, you don't have a vote. you can probably sit with the selection committee and talk about who you think would be good players in your 11. And so in that particular situation, the feelings had been pretty because we lost the game. The feelings were pretty high, and by the time I actually went to the selection meeting, because after the team lost, I actually told Mr. Borde, the chairman of the selection committee, to please go ahead and begin the selection committee meeting. I want to have a chat with the players. I want to talk to the players, and so I took about 15-20 minutes talking to the players, saying that okay, we have lost the game. Now there are 3 more matches left. Let's look at it as a 3-match series rather than let's forget what has happened. We won the first, they have won the second. Now we'll look at it as a 3-test match series. So forget what has happened. So this was the kind of, this was basically the kind of pep talk that I was trying to do with the team to lift the team up. And by the time I reached the selection meeting, the discussion was pretty heated, and it was all to do, the heated discussion was about the shot that couple they were played. And so, so at the end of the day, he was dropped. But the way that the canard was spread, that I was the one who wanted him dropped, all I can say at this stage, because I think the selection committee meetings are supposed to be confidential. All I can say is that I did not propose Kapil Dev being dropped. That proposal to drop him, also to not pay him his match fees, came from somebody else. At the end of the day, whatever happened, we are all responsible. But one thing for sure, whatever I might be, I'm not stupid to drop my match winner from my team. My only match winner, with due respect to the other members of the team, the Kapil Dev was the only match winner in our team with both bat and ball. He could turn the match with the bat, he could turn the match with the ball. And as a captain, I was not going to drop him from the team. Eventually, a decision was taken, arrived at, and I did not propose Kapil Dev being dropped. That is what I want to say.
Okay. My time is up. So all I will say is I wanted to give Sunny Bhai this question because I had promised him I will ask this one at that point 2 months back. When every day now we get up, each one of us, and I'm sure each one of us are facing this, we get calls from colleagues and friends. Can you get me an oxygen cylinder? Can you get me a bed? Can you get me some medicine? Can you help this person? If you see social media, that's all that's doing the rounds. And each one of us are being plummeted into a sense of negativity, gloom, and despondency, that what we are seeing around us is death. What we are seeing around us is suffering. And frankly, when such things happen to me, all I look for to is sport. I look to Jesse Owens in 1936, 4 goals in front of Adolf Hitler. I look to Jackie Robinson in 1947, breaking the color line in the United States, which was completely racist at that point in time. If you go and check the footage, you will see what Jackie Robinson went through. I look to somebody, like a Deepa Malik, winning in Rio, despite being in coma for good many number of days, 183 stitches as part of that operation. I look to 1971. I look to the Sunil Gavaskar team, the Ajit Wadekar team, because it tells me one simple thing. It tells me there is life beyond suffering. It tells me we can. It tells me sport is salve for a troubled nation. It tells me we will heal. The question is, will we learn? And sport is a life lesson. It is real, not real. And that for me was the only reason why I did this book with Gautam Da as part of the 1971 story. If you read this book, it might be badly written, it might be whatever, but you will feel inspired, which I think at this point in time is the single biggest life lesson that each one of us can draw on. So a very big thank you to Malavika Banerjee and the Kolkata Literary Meet, to Tata Steel, Kolkata Literary Meet rather, to Pratiti and the backend team, to, of course, my guests, Sunil Gavaskar, my hero, Mithali Raj, who I consider family and one of my dearest friends, Bharat Arun, who I don't know how many hours I keep talking to understand the coaching philosophy and everything. I mean, Bharat and I have chatted a good many hundreds of hours almost over the last couple of years. And finally, comrade in arms, Gautam Bhattacharya. It's been a fantastic few months during lockdown to be able to produce this book. Buy it, because for no other reason you will feel inspired. To everyone, a deep, heartfelt thank you. Stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Mithali. Thanks, Bharat. Thanks, Mr. Gavaskar. Thanks, Gautam Da. And thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.